and welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie, and this week you car buffs out there are going to like our picks. We pick some books where it involves road trips or the car is a key part of the story. So Jill, kick us off.
So my first one is for you gearheads, Engines of Change, A History of American Dream in 15 Cars by Paul Ingrassia. From Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Paul Ingrassia comes a narrative of America like no other, a cultural history that explores how cars have both propelled and reflected the national experience, from the Model T to the Prius. From the assembly lines of Henry Ford to the open roads of Route 66, the lore of Jack Kerouac to the sex appeal of the hot rod, America's history is vehicular history. Ingrassia offers a wondrous epic in 15 automobiles, including the Corvette, the Beetle, the Chevy Corvair, as well as the personalities and tales behind them. Robert McNamara's unlikely role in Lee Iacocca's Mustang, John D. Z. DeLorean's Pontiac GTO, Henry Ford's Model T, as well as Honda's Accord, BMW 3 Series, and the Jeep, among others. Through these cars and these characters, Ingrassia shows how the car has expressed a particularly American tension between the lure of freedom and the obligations of utility. He also takes us through the rise of American manufacturing, the suburbanizations of the country, the birth of the hippie and the yuppie, the emancipation of women, and many more fateful episodes and eras, including the car's unintended consequences, trial lawyers, energy crises, urban sprawl. Narrative history of the highest caliber, Engines of Change is entirely edifying a new way to look at the American story. So, American story told through cars. It's
very cool.
Very fun.
And my first pick is one of the names you just mentioned, and this is Jack Kerouac's On the Road. This was published for the first time back in 1957.
Wow.
It's a quintessential novel of America and the Beat Generation. It chronicles Jack Kerouac's years traveling the North American continent with his friend Neil Cassidy, a sideburn hero of the snowy West. Dean Moriarty is the fictional name used in the book for Neil Cassidy, while Sal Paradise is the character name for Jack Kerouac. And the car that Dean drives in On the Road is a 1949 Hudson Commodore. So the Hudson Commodore,
cool.
Pretty cool old car. And Kerouac's love of America, compassion for humanity, and sense of language as jazz combined to make On the Road an inspirational work of lasting importance. It's a classic novel of freedom and longing, defined what it meant to be beat, and has inspired every generation since its initial publication. And as you can see by the copy I have, it's also a movie. So check out On the Road by Jack Kerouac.
I've seen that referred to a lot in researching this topic.
Exactly.
So the reason we came up with this topic was because I saw Ferrari, and my next book kind of reminds me of another car book or car movie called Ford versus Ferrari. This is Go Like Hell, Ford, Ferrari, and their battle for speed at the Le Mans by A.J. Bain. By the early 1960s, the Ford Motor Company, built to bring automobile transportation to the masses, was falling behind. Young Henry Ford II, who had taken the reins of his grandfather's company with little business experience to speak of, knew he had to do something to shake things up. Baby boomers were taking to the road in droves, looking for speed, not safety. Style, not comfort. Meanwhile, Enzo Ferrari, whose cars epitomized style, lorded it over European race scene. He crafted beautiful sports cars, science fiction on wheels, but also called the assassin because many drivers perished while racing them. Go Like Hell tells the remarkable story of how Henry Ford II, with the help of a young visionary named Lee Iacocca, and former racing champion turned engineer Carroll Shelby, concocted a scheme to reinvent the Ford Company. They would enter the high-stakes world of European car races, where an adventurer's few threw safety and sanity to the wind. They would design, build, and race a car that would beat Ferrari at its own game at the most prestigious and brutal race in the world, something no American car had ever done. Go Like Hell transports readers to a risk-filled, glorious time in this brilliant portrait of rivalry between two industrialists, the cars they built, and the pilots who would drive them to victory or doom. Go Like Hell.
My second pick involves this Plymouth Fury, and this is from the book Christine by Stephen King.
Oh.
Where the car is definitely a character.
Definitely.
This was published back in 1983. Stephen King's ultimate evil vehicle of terror, Christine, the frightening story of a nerdy teen who falls in love with his vintage Plymouth Fury. It's love at first sight, but this car is no lady. Evil is alive in Libertyville. It inhabits a custom-painted red and white 1958 Plymouth Fury named Christine and young Arnold Cunningham, who buys it. Along with Arnold's girlfriend, Lee Cabot, Dennis Gilder attempts to find out the real truth behind Christine and finds out more than he bargained for. From murder to suicide, there's a peculiar feeling that surrounds Christine. She gets revenge on anyone standing in her path. Can Dennis save Arnold from the wrath of Christine? It was a #1 national bestseller. It's described as vintage Stephen King. It's breathtaking, it's awesome, and it carries such momentum the reader must force himself to slow down when reading this book. So on the back cover, you got Stephen King sitting on the car.
That is one of my favorite Stephen King books. So, if you like these cars and what they look like, this is a coffee table book, A Man in His Car, iconic cars and the stories of men who love them. So, celebrate the bond between men and cars. Discover actor and director Ed Burns talking about his 1969 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, a model he's been dreaming about since his day of pumping gas. NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal, whose favorite cars are trucks, he loves the wow factor of an International CV Series 6.6. Or Jay Leno on his 1955 Buick Roadmaster, big enough for him to sleep in while trying to make it as a comic. Filled with stunning photographs of whole cars and the exquisite details that make the car lover's heart beat just a little faster, as well as more than 80 personal stories. It's a joy for every reader who knows that a car is never such a car. So if you want to see famous people in their cars.
A coffee table book. The third pick is Faster: How a Jewish Driver, an American Heiress, and a Legendary Car Beat Hitler's Best by Neil Bascom, and this was published in 2020. This is for fans of The Boys in the Boat or In the Garden of Beasts. It's a pulse-pounding tale of triumph by an improbable team of upstarts over Hitler's fearsome silver arrows during the golden age of auto racing. These three were the unlikeliest of heroes. Rene Dreyfus, a former top driver on the international race car circuit, had been banned from the best European teams and the fastest cars by the mid-1930s because of his Jewish heritage. Charles, head of the down-on-its-luck automaker Delahaye, was desperately trying to save his company as the world teetered toward the brink. And Lucy Schell, the adventurous daughter of an American multimillionaire, yearned to reclaim the glory of her rally driving days. As Nazi Germany launched its campaign of racial terror and pushed the world toward war, these three misfits banded together to challenge Hitler's dominance at the apex of motorsport, the Grand Prix, driving Delahaye 145.
Oh, wow.
Their quest for redemption culminated in a remarkable race that is still talked about in racing circles to this day, but which soon after it ended, Hitler attempted to completely erase from history. Bringing to life this glamorous era and the sport that defined it, this book chronicles one of the most inspiring, death-defying upsets of all time, a symbolic blow against the Nazis during history's darkest hours. So, like I said, fans of The Boys in the Boat and The Garden of Beasts, I was going to try and bring this one home for my hubby. He likes both those books, so he might like this.
And the car's pretty cool, too.
I'll say.
So this one reminded me of another movie. This whole topic is reminding me of movies. This one reminded me of Thelma and Louise, which is the classic road trip movie, the mostly true story of Tanner and Louise by Colleen Oakley. I'm sure they meant it to be that way. 21-year-old Tanner Quimby needs a place to live, preferably one where she can continue sitting around in sweatpants and playing video games 19 hours a day. Since she has no credit or money to speak of, her options are limited, so when an opportunity to work as a live-in caregiver for an elderly woman falls in her lap, she takes it. One slip on the rug, that's all it took for Louise Wilt's daughter to demand that Louise have a full-time nanny living with her. Never mind that she can still walk fine, finish her daily crossword puzzle, and pour the 2 fingers of vodka she drinks every afternoon. Bottom line, Louise wants a caretaker even less than Tanner wants to be one. The two start off their living arrangement happily ignoring each other until Tanner starts to notice things. Weird things, like why does Louise keep her garden shed locked up tighter than a prison? And why is the local news fixated on the suspect of one of the biggest jewelry heists in American history, who looks eerily like Louise?
Uh-oh.
And why does Louise suddenly appear in her room with a packed bag at 1 a.m., insisting they leave town immediately? Thus begins the story of a not-to-be-underestimated elderly woman and an aimless young woman who, if they can outrun the mistakes of their past, might just have the greatest adventure of their lives. So, the mostly true story of Tanner and Louise by Colleen Oakley.
I've got another one that became a movie, Jill. So this time, my fourth pick is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, A Savage Journey to the Heart of the American Dream by Hunter S. Thompson, and this was published back in 1971. This book is the best chronicle of drug-soaked, addle-brained, rollicking good times ever committed to the printed page. It's also the tale of a long weekend road trip that has gone down in the annals of American pop culture as one of the strangest journeys ever taken. I think Johnny Depp stars in the movie in this one, doesn't he? This book is rooted in autobiographical incidents. The story follows its protagonist, Raoul Duke, and his attorney, Dr. Gonzo, as they descend on Las Vegas to chase the American dream through their drug-induced haze, all the while ruminating on the failure of the 1960s countercultural movement. So in this book, Thompson's 1973 Chevrolet Caprice, nicknamed the Red Shark, is the featured car in this novel. So if you want to go back to a little bit of a pop culture book, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, A Savage Journey to the Heart of the American Dream.
I like how your cars span decades. That's fun. Okay, so my last one is The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary. Addie and her sister are about to embark on an epic road trip to a friend's wedding in the northern Scotland. The playlist is all planned and the snacks are packed. But not long after setting off, a car slams into the back of theirs. The driver is none other than Addie's ex, Dylan, who she's avoided since their traumatic breakup 2 years earlier. Dylan and his best mate are heading to the wedding too, and they've totaled their car, so Addie has no choice but to offer them a ride. The car is soon jam-packed full of luggage and secrets, and with 300 miles ahead of them, Dylan and Addie can't avoid confronting the very messy history of their relationship. Will they make it to the wedding on time? And more importantly, is this really the end of the road for Addie and Dylan? So, The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary.
My last book goes back to the 1940s. And this is Cheaper by the Dozen by Frank Gilbreth, and this was published back in 1948. So the main character in this is Frank B. Gilbreth, and to the world, he's a distinguished innovator in a scientific factory management, and he's also the dad to a family of 6 boys and 6 girls. They live in a house in Montclair, New Jersey, and it's sort of a laboratory for the elimination of waste motions. Motion study, as the elder children call it. The children made excellent, if occasionally unwilling, guinea pigs in Dad's experiments. Only a motion study expert could have coped with their temperamental Pierce Arrow, foolishly nicknamed the Foolish Carriage. But Dad found no difficulty in blowing all 3 horns, 1 electric, 2 of the bulb variety, as he stepped on the gas, steered madly through traffic, puffed on his cigar, cuffed a noisy youngster in the back seat, and bellowed, Road hog, at the unwary. The annual trip to their summer home in Nantucket, Massachusetts, was always fraught with drama. They inevitably caused a sensation when they passed through the small town and were once taken for an entire orphanage on an outing. Stops were, of course, frequent, and once when one of the 12 got left behind, the loss wasn't discovered for several hours. Democracy was religiously practiced in this family through the medium of the family council. There was the matter of the dog, for instance. Dad firmly believed that any pet which didn't lay eggs was an extravagance that a man with 12 children could ill afford. But the vote was 12-1, with Mother abstaining, and the dog was added to the general bedlam. The Gilberts astounded the Nantucket natives, who considered their homestead, a pair of lighthouses with a cottage squeezed between them, a must-see for all the visiting tourists. Their hijinks are faithfully reported by 2 of the famous dozen in this funny book.
And what kind of car did they have all those people in?
So here's a picture of all of them packed in their car back in the 1940s.
Wow.
In the car they nicknamed the Foolish Carriage. It was a Pierce Arrow, so that sounds like a cute book, actually.
That looks cute. Wasn't that a movie, too?
That was also a movie, Jill.
Steve Martin, I think, in that one.
I went down your path of being inspired by cars in the movies.
Well, we hope you found something to read if you like cars.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed some of our books for car buffs and road trippers. You can find our videos on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel. Jill puts a link on the Kimberly Public Library website. And we thank you for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.